Hey, it's Jack from Jack Gately Real Estate and the Online Real Estate Academy. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a lot of news to bring you up to date relative to all the legal surroundings, rulings, all that good stuff about NAR and where this whole settlement might go. We're going to talk about that in today's episode. But before we do that, we have two other very important topics. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and the FHA have just issued new rules. Came out yesterday, which was a holiday here in Massachusetts, and came out with new rules about whether or not the buyer can wrap up the buyer's agent commission basically as a seller concession. Wow, that is big. We've been waiting for that, right? Been waiting for that, and we're going to talk to you and dive. That's probably going to be the top story in today's episode. Plus, we're also going to hear from the spokesman, the de facto spokesman for the National Association of Realtors in this episode. But before we do this, let's take a quick look at interest rates. Holy bleep me. The S&P closes lower as Powell warns rates need to stay high. Down snaps 6-day losing streak. So this is from CNBC. Your 10-year is now sitting at 4.655. Jack, what's that mean for mortgage rates? It means that mortgage rates closed today, according to Mortgage News Daily, at 7.5%. 7.5% for a exceptionally credit 30-year fixed. So we are now at the point where some people with bad credit might be in the higher sevens and maybe even closer to 8, right? And so if you go over to Lance Lambert from Resi Club, my favorite new website, the spread between the 10-year and the 30-year fixed is 284 basis points. It had been up to 310. I think that was last year or late last year. And recently it had slid down to about 270, but recently last week or so, it's been creeping back up again, which means that the subsequent rate is higher. So I think that is something that we really have to keep an eye on. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know I've been very pessimistic about where our rates are going, just based upon our spending in the United States and the devaluation of the dollar. And no matter what everybody else says, I think we're going to go for higher interest. I've been saying this for a long time. It's nice to know that Powell is now on board effectively, as Powell says, warns rates need to stay high. Finally, people have come to their senses and realize that it's higher for longer, higher for much longer. That interest rates are not transitory, but stubborn. They're stubborn, or whatever the phrase they're using for now. The simple fact of the matter is, when you look at the math of the spending from the federal government, there's nowhere else they could go. They cannot go down. They could not go down. Mortgage News Daily also points out today that construction starts came out. Was that this morning, I think? Residential construction starts, which surged in February, gave back all of those gains in March, and permits also declined. So, yeah, again, just a macro picture here. I think all of the apparatus is doing everything they can to stave off what I think will eventually be, sadly, a little bit of stagflation coming to the economy. And they're going to try to hold that off as long as possible, preferably after the election. All right, because, of course, you know, the job of the Fed during an election year is to re-elect the incumbent, no matter who they happen to be. And they're working hard on that. But, you know, the more you watch CNBC, the more you hear people say, maybe there won't be any rate cuts. And then you occasionally hear a person say, you know what? Maybe there'll be actually a rate hike. So it's only a matter of 2 or 3, 4 weeks before rate hikes now become the conventional wisdom. You know what they say about conventional wisdom. But I think we might actually see a rate hike this year. And we're not going to see a rate cut anytime soon. That's for sure. All right, let's cut to the Fannie and Freddie important announcement from yesterday. Selling notice, real estate commissions and interested party contributions. And basically, here's their bullet point here. We are aware of the proposed settlement, which is only proposed, subject to court approval. So they're very carefully wording that. And I would stress that. You remember, a lot of people think that this settlement is a done deal, that the Department of Justice has quietly backroomed the approval on this. I don't buy that at all. I think the Department of Justice is going to be coming in hot, and I think they're going to say, no, seller pay the seller commission, buyer pay the buyer commission. I don't believe that this is a done deal at all. But let's set that aside. Let's stipulate for this discussion that it is a done deal. Let's take a look at the changes that Fannie, Freddie, and FHA are making, assuming that this is a done deal. While there are no immediate changes to our selling guide policies, we are clarifying the current treatment of seller-paid real estate fees under our interested party contributions policy. So we're not changing anything, but we are changing it. All right, so here's the rule or the statement that they issued, and I am not going to bore you with this because obviously it's difficult to read and having a little trouble pulling it up on the computer here, but it's just brutal to read. But it does cover the selling guide B3-4.1-02. And by the way, I've linked to this document in the description of this video in case you want to read this statement. Now, a lot of people that are going to make videos about this rule, because this is big news. And let me just summarize it in a nutshell. Basically, it's going to allow the commission to be wrapped up in the sales price, and that will not be included in the accounting of what's called seller concessions, as long as the commission is customary for that area. Now, seller concessions are usually, in my experience, customary around here, $3,000-$4,000 or something like that. The commission, obviously, is usually much larger. And yeah, right, maybe not much. We'll see how long that stands for. But usually commission is much larger. So the problem is that these loan programs have caps around 8 or 9% of how much the seller concession can be relative to the sales price. And basically what they're saying is they're not going to keep or count, they're not going to count the commission as part of that cap. So the commission can be outside of the cap. In other words, everything as it's always been. Because if they were going to keep it inside the cap, if the seller commission or if the commissions were going to be accountable to the cap limit, that would have made things a little bit more difficult for a lot of deals, So I did do a video on this. This is not the first time I did a video on this exact topic, which is known as Selling Guide B3-4.1-0.02. If we flash to, and I also going to link this for you, here is me last July. Same shirt. This is my trademark shirt, if you haven't noticed. Talking about this very topic. Probably are different. We're going to focus on Fannie Mae for this video. And here we are. Interested Party Contributions, IPCs. Fannie Mae has a name for it. By the way, all right, so there it is. I'm going to link that. That was an exploratory discussion last July on this very channel talking about this very rule. So this is not the first time I made a video on this topic. Although there's going to be a lot of people out there that are making videos about this topic for the first time. Not me. And yeah, you see, you stick here with Jack. I'm here to help. So the bottom line is, I think this is very industry friendly. These rules are very industry friendly. They're basically, we now have the same rule announcement from FHA, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac. We're still waiting for the VA to make a similar rule change. They might have some other, legalistic hoops or wording that they've got to kind of go around. But I think the word has gone out on high, the current administration, to make these changes. So these are going to be industry-friendly changes. And if you're concerned about getting a buyer side commission in the future, relative to the NAR settlement proposed, you can maybe breathe a big, big sigh of relief right now, because without getting too detailed about the accounting side of the thing, and who wants to make a video about accounting, this is good for you if you're a buyer side agent. Let's just put it at the top line. This is really good for you if you're a buyer side agent and the proposed NAR settlement sticks. All right, we got that? All right, we're good. So that's how that works. And you want to go read the details about that? Again, it's linked in the description. Let's bring up, and by the way, I'd love your comments today. If you want to throw in a comment here, I'm going to just bring up the comment tab on this other screen here. So if I see anybody with comment, be glad to hear from you. We've had some important legal developments, and we're going to talk about these fairly straightforward here. First off, out yesterday, Supreme Court to the home services denied the Sitzer-Burnett verdict stands. The brokerage lost its bid to have the verdict tossed out, leaving it with fewer options as the lone defendant in the Landmark Commission lawsuit. So they had tried to appeal to the Supreme Court to say that this court case should have never been brought. They lost. And the original judgment was effectively, when it was tripled, $5.4 billion. And I believe proportionally that leaves home services potentially on the hook for $4.7 billion. But wait, there's more. The judge in the Bombshell Commission lawsuit out of Kansas City has recently announced, and this also came out yesterday, all credit to Dave Gallagher at Real Estate News, saying that, whoa, easy, we're not going to be sending you all that money quite yet. There are still additional motions and settlements that need to be finalized. So even though the Supreme Court sided on your side, the money's not going to flow immediately. Now, another very important, and I was kind of surprised by this, not that I'm a legal expert, but judges decline to centralize commission lawsuits for now. So there was this multi-district lawyer thingy panel, and you know how much I love lawyers, and they were considering consolidating all of these suits basically into one suit. I thought that would have been a win for the industry. There was mixed feelings about this, and I think people on the other side of that had legitimate points, but I thought that overall it would be a good thing for the industry. At least, you could focus on one thing. It would certainly be easier for us that make videos because you'd only have to track one court case. So I was looking forward to it. Remember, I'm not a member of the National Association, so I haven't been convicted in the massive conspiracy. I'm not part of the conspiracy. So anyways, they decided not to consolidate it for now. Now, they reserve their right to reconsider, but that's interesting in that now this seems, and I think this next case here, this next news development is going to prove my point even more. This whole commission, lawsuit, legal wrangling, it seems to me as if it's starting to take on, it always has, but it's escalated and now seems to have been taking on a life entirely of its own, right? It's alive. Kind of like that. It doesn't seem like anybody is really steering the boat, right? Everyone has their role to play, but you don't see really a dominant player. If there's any dominant player out there, it's the player that hasn't played their hand yet, right? Hasn't shown their card. Yeah, I'm not a poker player, but I'm pretty sure the person that holds their cards and shows them last is usually the one in charge. I'm pretty sure that's how it worked. And who would that be? That would be the Department of Justice. So the other day, last week, the DOJ won an appeal, and they can now reopen their investigation into NAR. the appeals court rules. In another loss for the National Association, the court ruled that the Department of Justice can reopen its investigation into rules around commission sharing. All right, so the DOJ now has the green light to investigate NAR. There's going to be a gazillion court cases for the foreseeable future. The judge is not ready to order home services to pay the money. It just seems to be a little bit spinning out of control. Plus, what are the cards that DOJ is holding that they haven't shown yet? And that would be what we call a statement of interest in the Bombshell Commission lawsuit. You might remember that a month before the NAR settlement was reached, so the NAR settlement was reached almost a month ago. That would have been on March 15th. A month before, on February 15th, when I was visiting the beautiful and free state of Florida, the Department of Justice issued a statement of interest in the No-Select MLS PIN case, which is from here in Massachusetts. And it was widely hailed as a well-written, thought-out case, and finally tipped their hand a little bit, showed their cards just a little, opened the kimono, that basically they wanted the seller to pay the seller agent and the buyer to pay the buyer agent. And I think since then, the parties, especially NAR, have kind of tried to thread the needle a little bit and take some liberties with maybe some, how do I want to say this, imprecise language that the Department of Justice may have used. And that's how they came up with the, well, you can share commissions, but you can't do it on the MLS kind of cuteness. And I think that after the Department of Justice saw the trickery that NAR kind of put together in this settlement, and the lawyers were okay with it because they just want the money. I think they're going to be doubly hard on NAR when they come out with their statement of interest for the Bombshell Commission lawsuit out of Kansas City. That's just my gut. Nobody knows. But I don't see how they're going to abandon their February 15th statement and all of a sudden now be just perfectly fine with the NAR settlement. Except for one thing, I would posit that is a potential way they might do that. And that is because this is an election year. And it might be, not that the Department of Justice ever would factor this into any decision they would ever make. They would never consider politics in any decision. But it might be a huge win for the Biden administration if the Biden administration in an election year can go out and show they're beating up on real estate agents and making making things more affordable. That could be a huge political win, even if it's not actually a real win. Optics are everything. So I think that is a factor. That is the only thing I really think that would get the DOJ off its position from February 15th in the No-Select statement. All right, so we have a new video out from the de facto spokesman for the National Association of Realtors. And here he is here, Anthony LaMacchia. And he drops a lot of information in this minute and a half video. We're going to only listen to like the second half. Go ahead, Anthony.
About 2 weeks ago to discuss the idea of consolidating all the cases into one jurisdiction for all of these ridiculous cases to be reviewed. I've been very open.
He's been against that.
About how against that I am, because I was worried they would end up in the Western District of Missouri in Ketchmark's court. We don't want that.
We don't want that, as if he's speaking for NAR.
About that in the video, but we just found out it's not happening. In addition, I also really show some things that Deborah Kamen, the fake reporter from the New York Times.
The New York Times. Did you just hear what he said? Deborah Kamen, the fake reporter at the New York Times. Now, whether you like the New York Times or not, Anthony almost sounds like Trump-like. The New York Times is fake news. Does he? Sounds a little bit like Trump.
Has put out against our industry, her podcasts, her Instagram videos, her awful articles. She actually blocked me on Twitter.
Her awful articles. And Anthony just tells us now that Deborah Kamen, the real estate reporter from the New York Times, blocked him on Twitter, which is now X.
Twitter and Instagram, and I'm pretty happy
And
about
Instagram.
that. Log on to RE Cases.
And he's pretty happy about that. So the de facto spokesperson for the National Association has been blocked by the New York Times real estate reporter. Not a good look. Not a good look. And there's been some criticism of his comments of late. And I know I did a short about this, but it's really hard to believe that the National Association president, Kevin Sears, who's from Springfield, Massachusetts, and Anthony Lamacchia, I think, is from Waltham. I'm from Plymouth. I don't know these gentlemen. We're all from Massachusetts. They know each other, but I don't know them. Kevin Sears, the NAR president, you can't make this up, has joined Lamacchia Real Estate. He has taken his long time held company, Sears Real Estate, and become a team member of Anthony Lamacchia.
Signing the documents necessary to make the Sears Real Estate Company a part of Lamacchia Realty. And it's awesome to be here with you guys. We're here at our Lamacchia Worcester office. And finally, after years of talking about this, we made it happen.
We made it happen. So Kevin Sears, the NAR president, works for Lamacchia, who's a de facto spokesman for NAR. You can't make this stuff up. You can, like, literally, I couldn't make this up. All right. So, hey, I've had a real fun time bringing you this update. I really want you to think about how this buyer agent commission rule thingy, this Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA rule, I think this does change things. This is something that actually NAR, to all their credit, NAR has been trying to get this accomplished, and I think they actually did that. So, this is a policy goal that I'm pretty sure NAR had on their plate, and they achieved it. And we'll see what the reaction is from the Department of Justice. That is the next. There'll be many. There's a lot of sand to go through the hourglass here, but the Department of Justice thing, their statement of interest in the bombshell commission lawsuit out of Kansas City, is, in my opinion, the next big shoe to drop. Keep an eye on those interest rates. 7.5 right now for a 30-year fixed. Hey, I'm Jack from Jack Gately Real Estate and the Online Real Estate Academy. We will see you next time. Have a great week. Go make some money.